In Argentina, labor organizations began national strike to reject Javier Milei's neoliberal policies. Hundreds of protesters blocked Tel Aviv's main highway on Wednesday night, calling on the government to secure the immediate release of hostages held captive in the Gaza Strip. The president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, together with his Iranian counterpart Ebrahim Raisi, agreed on the need to avoid measures that would further threaten the security and stability of the region. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Argentinians conclude their protest around the National Congress building, where they had gathered to express the rejection of the policies of Javier Milei's government. Citizens and workers' unions had mobilized massively in the center of Buenos Aires, covering several streets around Congress. During the rally, the demonstrators rejected the economic policies, decrees and laws promoted by Milei's government, considering them a violation of their labor rights and a surrender of the nation to the hands of the private sectors. Nationwide striking comes just 45 days after President Javier Milei took office, making it the fastest action of its kind into the term of the new government. Thousands of workers took to the streets after a mobilization called by the General Workers' Union CGT and social movements in the country. In this context, teleSUR invites Argentine journalist and social communicator Pablo Malicia to analyze these events. Welcome to From the South.
Hi, Alejandra. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for being with us today. So our first question would be, Javier Milei's liberal measure faced their first massive obstacle today, with thousands of taking to the streets across the country. So how has Argentina lived this day of demonstrations, and what is the significance of this general strike?
Well, as you mentioned, this is the strongest strike ever in Argentinian history in such a short period of time. But it was not only that the workers marched again, trying to protect themselves from the cut of rights that the government is planning to do in the matter of labor laws and rights, but also the workers marched because the government is planning to surrender the Argentinian sovereignty in every way. So the conscience of the people is very aware that they want to sell the companies, the oil company, the big state-owned companies, and they want to, for example, allow people from abroad to be able to buy as much Argentinian land as they want, including rivers, including lakes, including seashore, strategical positions that shouldn't be in hands of foreign people. So this is the government, more than Milei's government, this is the vulture founds government, since they are the true black monks behind President Milei. He represents their interests, and they are willing to break Argentina in parts. Argentina is for sale right now, and the government has declared a war against the Argentinian people, and they won't hesitate to use as much force as they need to, including bloodshed, if they need to, in order to impose these measures they want to push forward.
Over the past weeks, Pablo, the government has threatened to impose prison sentences on the demonstrators who take to the streets, and yet thousands are advancing today along the main avenues of the country. So how has been the police deployment throughout the country? Are there any reports of police brutality?
There are. The police seems to be looking for a problem to happen. They want it to happen. They need some some problem to start in order for them to act. Fortunately, there has not been major situations because the people is aware of these situations. But I don't think the demonstration day is over yet in Argentina. This may continue in many cities in Argentina. They are planning to move to march in the nighttime, and since the act we saw earlier today was from the workers' unions, and they already left, let's say, the places where the demonstration was being done. Now it is possible that all the major cities has nighttime demonstrations with, let's say, people that is not in any worker union, or just simple citizens that wants to claim and to show their disagreement with all these policies that, I repeat, that surrenders all our sovereignty to not only to foreign countries and governments, but especially to the vouchers funds, who are the real people backing up President Milei.
So let's highlight that yesterday the so-called omnibus bill passed its first test in Congress committees. Do you think this national strike could lead to a real change on policy of the policy in the country and stop the approval of this mega decree?
I think that this is no. I don't think that this demonstration is going to achieve much more than what it already has. But I also say that this is the first step in this long way. There is a long way of struggle of the people, of the workers, of the working class, and this is only the first step, and it was a very strong step. But I also think that President Milei is also willing to prove his own manhood in a way by repressing and using violence. And I think that in the near future, these demonstrations will start to be more and more often, and perhaps we are going to a path of violence in Argentina as we never saw before.
Thank you so much for your time hearing from the South, Pablo.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
We were talking to Pablo Malizia, Argentine journalist and social communicator, live from Santa Teresita City in Buenos Aires province, amid the national strike taking place in Argentina against the government of President Javier Milei. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Hundreds of protesters briefly blocked Tel Aviv's main highway on Wednesday night, calling on the government to secure the immediate release of more than 100 hostages held captive in the Gaza Strip. The march was part of the National Day of Rage, led by a women's group under the slogan "Women Demand Life." The rallies extended throughout the day and across the nation, with the main demonstrations being downtown Tel Aviv. The demonstrations were the latest show of displeasure with the government by families of the hostages and their many supporters. The protesters say the hostages are in grave danger and time is running out to bring them home safely. Police cleared the marches of the Ayalon highway before the crowd gathered outside the nearby building where the Israeli Military and Defense Ministry are headquartered. Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki called for a world peace conference to uphold international law and implement United Nations resolutions on the Gaza Strip. During a meeting of the United Nations Security Council, the senior Palestinian official stated that the Israeli offensive includes the most savage and indiscriminate bombardment in the post-Second World War era. In addition to massive destruction and a cruel siege that deprives the population of this essential for their survival, together with the forced displacement of millions of people. In this context, the Secretary General of the organization, Antonio Guterres, affirmed that Israel's position of rejecting the two-state solution is unacceptable and called for the entry of food and supplies to the Gaza Strip.
The entire population of Gaza is enduring destruction at a scale and speed without parallel in recent history. Nothing can justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. We need more crossing points into Gaza to reduce congestion and avoid checkpoints. The provision of aid to Gaza via the Ashdod port in Israel must also resume. A first shipment of flour reached Gaza from Ashdod, but much more is required.
For his part, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov affirmed that the United States blocked all the initiatives of the Security Council that sought to put an end to the bloodshed of the Palestinian people.
The Council has failed to come out with an adequate response to this truly fateful challenge, and we know the reason from the U.S. positions. The United States has blocked all efforts and initiatives aimed at ending the bloodshed in the occupied territory. The amazing thing is how widespread U.S. diplomacy is. It oscillates between vetoing ceasefire resolutions and, at the same time, calling for a reduction in the intensity of hostilities in Gaza. This undoubtedly serves as a carte blanche for the ongoing collective punishment of the Palestinians.
In this sense, Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian condemned the complicity of the United States with the genocide perpetrated by Israel and rejected the attacks on Yemen.
The United States repeatedly expresses grave concern over this spillover of tension in the region, yet continues to fully support the Israeli regime's war machine and even violates Yemen's sovereignty and expands the scope of the conflict. The United States must take responsibility for its consequences.
Palestinian people suffer from Israel's restriction on the delivery and distribution of humanitarian aid in the Gaza Strip. The president of Egypt, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, declared that although the Rafah border crossing with Gaza remains open, the occupation forces maintain and control restrictions to delay the delivery of humanitarian aid. Furthermore, the Egyptian president affirmed that this is a strategy on the part of Israel to put pressure on the release of more hostages. On the other hand, the United Nations World Food Programme also affirmed that the limitations on the access of humanitarian aid on the part of Israel prevent supplies from reaching the most affected areas of Gaza. The Israeli government acknowledged on Wednesday that its economy has been affected by attacks by Yemeni armed forces on commercial vessels linked to Tel Aviv operations. According to local media, the Israeli port of Eilat has experienced at least $3 billion in direct economic losses, as the import and export of goods to and from Israel has been affected by the attacks on ships in the Red Sea. According to Israeli sources, the transshipment scope of all Israeli seaports was significantly reduced by 70%. In turn, the Houthis claim that the operation started on November 14th will continue until the end of Tel Aviv's illegal war in the Gaza Strip. In Yemen, Houthi authorities ordered U.S. and British United Nations personnel and humanitarian organizations to leave the country within a month. The decision follows U.S. and British attacks with the support of other nations on the group's military assets. The United States claims that the military action intends to stop attacks on international shipping in the Red Sea, while the Houthis state that their attacks are in solidarity with Palestinians after Israel's aggression against Gaza. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, together with his Iranian counterpart Ebrahim Raisi, agreed on the need to avoid measures that would further threaten the security and stability of the region. At a joint press conference following their meeting in Ankara, the two leaders considered it necessary to put an end to the inhuman attacks by the Israeli occupation forces against the Gaza Strip and to take urgent measures to establish a just and lasting peace. The leaders exchanged views on the recent social and political developments in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Southern Caucasus. To date, Ankara has sent more than 30,000 tons of humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people since the beginning of the attacks from Tel Aviv on the Gaza Strip. On Wednesday, a fast train collided with a truck in eastern Czech Republic, killing one person and injuring at least 19 people. Czech Railways said the driver of the train was killed and that the injured had been transported to nearby hospitals with no life-threatening injuries. Police said there were 60 people on board the train at the time of the crash. The accident occurred early in the morning when a fast train heading for Prague, the country's capital, hit a truck at a crossing near the town of Bohemia. It was not immediately clear why the truck was on the tracks. Authorities said an investigation was underway into the cause of the crash. The Vatican sentenced priest Gabriele Martinelli to 2 years and 6 months in prison on Wednesday for sexual abuse. The Court of Appeal overturned a first-degree sentence against Martinelli, finding him guilty of corruption of minors for a series of abuses committed between 2007 and 2012 against another student at the pre-seminary St. Pius X. For her part, the victim's lawyers highlighted the importance of the sentence, describing it as historic, demanding justice for her client who has experienced years of suffering. The conviction, the first of its kind in Vatican territory, represents a significant step in the fight against sexual abuse in the Church, demonstrating the commitment of the ecclesiastical justice system to address this type of case. The Federal Service for Military Technical Cooperation of Russia commented on Wednesday on the intention of the President of Ecuador, Daniel Noboa, to transfer weapons and military equipment of Russian manufacture to the United States without obtaining the corresponding permission from the Russian Federation. The Russian agency said that if this were to happen, Ecuador would be violating its international obligations. It added that the agreement between Moscow and Quito on military technical cooperation signed in 2008 stipulates that the transfer of military items obtained as a result of bilateral military technical cooperation to a third party is unacceptable without the prior written consent of the Russian Federation. The agency's response comes after Noboa's statement in which he assured that his country will deliver to Washington Russian and Ukrainian military machinery in this use in exchange for modern equipment. In China, at least 39 dead and 9 injured are reported as a result of a fire in the basement of a store in the city of Hsinchu, located in the eastern province of Jiangxi. According to local authorities, the rescue work has been concluded and the area has been evaluated. The fire department reported that at least 15 units were found to be at risk of fire, 7 of which are located in the same district where the tragedy occurred. In this regard, President Xi Jinping urged the regions and departments to assess the potential risk and assume the responsibilities to prevent serious casualties, ensure the safety of people's life and property. The causes of the accident are still unknown, and an investigation is underway to clarify the cause. The number of active forest fires in Colombia has increased from 4 to 21 amid record temperatures. According to the National Unit for Disaster Risk Management, the department hardest hit by fires is Cundinamarca, whose capital is Bogotá, and where are fires in at least 5 municipalities. In the capital city, a raging fire burning since Monday has affected at least 12 hectares of the Cerros Orientales mountain range. And at this time, we go back to Palestine, where in a new Israeli attack on the Gaza Strip, at least 14 Palestinians were killed and hundreds injured. Our correspondent, Huda Hegazi, brings us the latest details from the ground.
According to Palestinian sources, today at approximately 2 p.m., Israeli occupation army troops proceeded to invade and surround the industrial headquarters in the governorate of Janines, which was the first refugee camp set up by UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in Palestine, where they proceeded to set up thousands of tents. It is a refugee camp that evacuates approximately 70,000 Palestinians. Today, Israeli troops proceeded not only to surround and invade the refugee camp, but also proceeded to bomb it directly. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, 2 missiles from tanks of the occupation army fell on a building which was evacuating approximately 800 Gazans. In addition to the fact that the planes and drones of the occupation army also proceeded to drop bombs on tents sheltering Gazans. Therefore, this bombing have caused the death of at least 14 Gazans and the injury of hundreds of others. But according to the UNRWA director, he assured that he has tried to contact ambulances, the International Red Crescent, and even the Red Cross to evacuate the wounded and to evacuate the martyrs. Still, it has been assured that the Israeli troops are preventing any ambulance car or any firefighting team from reaching that place by cutting the roads and even proceeding to open fire and shelling any ambulance car or any firefighting car that proceeded to approach that area. Therefore, UNRWA has been forced to bury the 14 Gazans who have been victims of these Israeli bombardments by opening a mass grave in that refugee camp and burying them collectively after several attempts in ambulance cars. Several ambulance cars have been able to reach the site of the incident and so far have transferred 73 victims to various hospitals in the governorate of Rafah, because as we know, the hospital in the governorate of Canunes are completely overrun and surrounded by the Israeli occupation army, such as Nasser Hospital, Al-Mal Hospital, and Al-Harid Hospital, and therefore all the wounded have been transferred to Abu Yusuf Al-Nahar Hospital and Al-Quaid Hospital here in this governorate. Now, the fear is that new bombings will be carried out in this refugee camp because, as we mentioned at the beginning, more than 70,000 Gazans are being evacuated. Among them are children, women, and elderly, and now the fear is for their lives. Therefore, UNRWA has asked the Red Cross, the International Red Crescent, and this human rights organization to evacuate all the Gazans who are inside this refugee camp because their lives are in grave danger.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.